Welcome to the farm.
Welcome back to the farm. I'm Justin, and we are back out in the barn again, and we are hopefully going to be getting some metal cut on the bandsaw here. In the last video on the bandsaw, I talked about taking the guide off of the rollers here, and I think I came up with a solution, and it was actually in the comments in the last video, but I'm going to try to set up something here to blow the metal shavings, at least try to keep them away from the rollers as best as I can. I wanted to take a minute and pause it here and explain a little bit of what I'm talking about. In the last video, if you haven't seen it, it's called Will We Get the Rock Bucket Started? I suggest you check it out. It'll make this clip make a lot more sense, but essentially the metal I'm trying to cut, the angle I'm trying to cut, is too big for the saw. It's not designed to cut at that big of an angle. So I ran into an issue with the guide that protects the rollers hitting the metal. So I removed the guide so that I could cut the metal, but when I did that, it was shooting a lot of metal sparks into the roller. So I wanted to come up with a solution to keep the metal shavings from entering the rollers and hopefully not damaging the saw. What I ended up doing, and I have not tried it out yet, we're going to try it out here in a little bit, but I took, I have this long nozzled air gun for my air compressor, and I just hooked that up with some clamps to point at the rollers, and then I just have it hooked up with my air compressor. And then I'll show you with the air compressor, but what I can do then is I can take the air output from the air compressor and I can dial that way down, and I'm thinking like 15-20 psi coming out of that gun will hopefully be enough of a stream to blow the shavings away, at least keep some of them out. But we're going to test that out here in a little bit. I'll go over and show you the compressor. So here's my really dirty compressor. Again, dirt floor. Every time I run the heat, I start the tractor, it blows onto the dirt, blows the dirt up in the air, and everything just gets covered in dust. But anyway, so there's two gauges on here. This gauge here is the main tank pressure, and then I got this gauge and this knob here that I can use to adjust the pressure coming out of the hose. So if I turn this, like right now I got to turn down to 0 so the air is not blowing, out of the gun. What I can do is I can then turn this up slowly, and that'll give me pressure going through the gun. And then over here, I got air blowing out. And if I want to turn it off, I just turn that knob all the way down, and the air will stop blowing. Ideally, it'd be nice to have a valve on the saw to turn it on and off right there, but I think once I'm done making these cuts for this particular angled cut, I'm gonna put the guard back on. I don't think I'll need the air anymore. It's just for doing these next 19 cuts or whatever I need to do with this setup, and then I'll probably take the gun off. But I'm hoping it'll at least help keep those bearings clear. Okay, so I got my next piece measured up in the clamp. I'm gonna go turn the air on, and we'll try making a cut and see what it does with the metal shavings. Hopefully it works out. Alright, air is on. Let's give this a shot. See what it does. That seemed to work really well. I don't see too much metal stuck in the bearings here, the wheels. It was blowing it all up and out pretty nice. So I think we're gonna run that. I'm gonna go ahead and just start cutting, and I will meet up with you when I get them all cut. So here's my test pieces I made, and I'm thinking once I weld the seam here, I'm gonna cut a little triangle piece. I'm gonna weld in there to gusset it. I don't know if I'm going to need another piece on top of that or not. I should have enough material to do that if I need to. And then I'm also thinking about gusseting or putting a plate on either side of this, maybe some 1/8 inch. I have some scrap stuff that I may put over this to help give this strength, because this is going to take most of the brunt when you have the quick attach up here and then you're digging into the dirt and the rock. This is going to want to pull. So I don't know if I want to gusset that up further than just having this triangle piece in or not. Then the other thing I was thinking too is I'm going to have 19 of these, 2 on the ends and then a bunch in the center. I'm going to have them 3 inches apart in the center so I can pick up some rather small rocks, you know, anything bigger than 3 inches. But instead of trying to build a jig to hold all these up and then do some small pieces in between and try to weld them like this, or like here's a smaller piece like this, and then try to weld each one of these and build a jig to hold everything square and straight. What I'm thinking about doing is taking kind of a woodworking technique. So I'd have my rail that holds all the slats together, and I would cut a groove halfway through the width of the slat. And on the slat, I would cut a groove halfway through the same width. Then what I can do is I can actually take them, set them all down in, which that one I didn't cut wide enough, but I can set them in like that. And then I can just use these to hold everything together, top and bottom. There'll be one in the middle and the bottom and one in the middle across the top. And then I can just set everything in, tack it all together, and weld it. I don't know if that's going to weaken the metal here, if this is all welded, if it's better to do the stringers a solid piece and little pieces in between. I'm not sure. Any of you guys who do a lot of welding, if you're watching, let me know if that's a bad idea or not. It's the best I could come up with. Otherwise, I do have an idea to make a jig, but I'd rather not make one if I don't have to. The next thing I need to do is get my bottom pieces cut to length and probably cut my gussets. So I'm going to get the saw set up to do that. I'll put the guide back on the saw and we'll see about cutting our gussets. So the next thing I want to do before I start cutting my gussets is I want to find out how long my bottom piece is going to be, because I don't want to cut those bottom pieces too short and waste a bunch of steel. So I got the steel down so I can measure across the bottom, and looks like I'm right at about 22 inches again, so we'll just make them 22. So now what I'm going to do is measure from my point over, mark 22 inches, so that way I know I don't cut into that when I'm making my gussets, which is right there. Let's go cut some gussets. So I've already changed the angle of my saw to 35 degrees. I figured out that's what I need to fit in between there. So I'll cut 35, 35 to make a triangle. And this is now within saw parameters, so hopefully it'll cut a lot easier. So what I'll do is I'll cut 35 degrees, flip the steel, line it up, cut another 35 degrees, and that'll give me my triangle. So now what I can do is loosen this up, flip it over, line my blade up with this corner, and then I can cut, and I should get my gusset. Alright, got my first gusset. Let's go test it out before I cut more. And our gusset looks like it can be tweaked just a little bit. It's got a little bit of wiggle in there, but I mean, nothing we can't weld that way anyway. But I might flatten that out just a little bit. So I'm gonna get to making gussets, and based on the number of clips and stuff, I think I'm getting to a good length of a video here. So I'm gonna end this one here, work on making my gussets, and I will see you in the next one. If you found the video interesting, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please do so. It helps out a lot. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Just K's Day Farm. We try to post other stuff on there as well. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.